It's Chelsea.
It's Nina.
And you're in the Critics' Kingdom.
So today we are going to review the final of the Zenon trilogy, aptly named Z3 or Z3, depending on where you're at.
True. This one came out in 2004. So I guess this must have also been the first third trilogy that DCOM did, because the sequel was the first sequel that they ever did.
I guess so. You think that they would have learned? Sorry.
She said, I think they would have learned.
It's just, yeah. I don't know. Should we just dive right
into the recap on this one? So it starts off with Zenon learning to drive the space shuttles or whatever the space cars, I guess, that they have with Commander Plank. She somehow manages to get her license, even though we see her do something illegal. But sure, it still gives her license, and at that point, she decides she's going to compete in the Galactic Teen Supreme contest, which is going to be held on the moon for the Moonstock Festival, and so she enters in along with Margie, who now is a close friend of hers, and Cassie, her real name is Cassiopeia, and she's actually Nebula's cousin. So the three of them are we all need to compete for this. This is going to be our thing. She also video chats with Nebula, because Raven is back as Nebula, guys, but this time she's only in front of a green screen. She's not actually otherwise in the movie other than to talk to Zenon via green screen.
Raven was clearly at a certain point in her career, and he was I literally don't have time for this.
She must have told them, you only have one day with me.
So they shot all her scenes.
Because they're literally all it's supposed to be that she's doing a semester in Hawaii.
Yeah.
In Maui or something. So it's supposed
to be Fiji? Is it on the other side?
No, I think she said Maui.
Or Australia? I feel like it's on the other side of the world. I feel like I remember thinking it was.
But I swear she said Maui.
Maybe. Yeah. You might be very right.
Anyway, she's somewhere tropical.
Right than I am.
She's somewhere tropical. But she's in here, and then so is her cousin Cassie, who we're meeting. And while they're all, standing on stage, as they're getting presented as the Galactic Teen Supreme contestants, and then there's also this guy named Braun who's there, who's, this attractive dude. The entire event kind of gets a little, it gets crashed by this moon preservation activist named Sage Borealis.
Great name.
Just a great name.
Excellent.
Who's guys, get off the moon. We need to protect the moon. And then they quickly cart him away, because that's not the aim of this. And from that point, they all meet each other. They all meet Bronley, and he's this super confident dude from
another space station.
Yeah, he's from a different space station in another part of the world.
Or I guess.
Well, did he have an accent?
I can't recall specifically.
Okay.
But
maybe I'm just thinking because I know the actual actor is Brazilian. Yeah. But yeah, he's not on their space station though. So this is their first time meeting him. And at that point, Zenon goes home, and she's actually, while she's on Earth, staying with her Aunt Judy and her now uncle Commander Plank. And they have started fostering a little girl named Dasha, who's 12, I think, or 13.
10 maybe, I think actually.
Is she 10? Yeah, she's 10.
She's 10.
And she's 10 years old, and they started fostering her, so Zenon meets her, and Dasha's basically obsessed with Zenon, has pictures of her everywhere, does her hair the exact same, wants to wear the exact clothes. Yeah, she's obsessed with Zenon.
Zenon manages to get her to eat vegetables.
Yes.
By eating vegetables.
Literally.
So, it's kind of great.
Yes, it literally is. And so, she's getting to know Dasha. She's talking to them before she heads out on this competition, because they have to, the first part of the competition is them flying to the moon and seeing who can get there the fastest. So they head out the next day, and as they're on their way there, and Zenon's zipping through space to get to the moon, Dasha pops up in the back seat of Zenon's shuttle, and Zenon's girl, what are you doing here? You're supposed to be on Earth with your new foster parents? And Dasha's oh, they don't want me anymore, because she had overheard a conversation where they were saying like, we don't want this ragamuffin and blah, blah, blah. They were actually talking about a dog, a puppy that they had bought for Dasha, but Dasha was just like, ear hustling. So she doesn't actually know that. She just overheard it and thought they were talking about her. So she decided to stow away with Zenon. But at this point, Zenon's like, I can't do anything with you until I, like, land. So they end up, getting in at a good time. And so now we have, like, the final 4 contestants for the competition, which is Braun, Margie, Cassie, and Zenon. Once they actually arrive, though, Zenon does try to get in contact with her aunt and uncle, but nothing is going through because they're on the moon. And
the communications are down.
It's just
somewhat
not
unknown why.
Right.
Yeah.
So we don't really get why, but she can't get through. So Dasha has to stay by her, which I know she's livid about because it's literally a bunch of teens all on the moon together, which would have been like a joy.
Yeah,
at that
a 10-year-old's
age.
dream.
He literally.
Like, I'm literally at the coolest party.
Exactly. And
all of my other 10-year-old friends are gonna be so jealous of me.
Right. And the base is like,
she ain't got no friends.
The base is decked out, like it just looks super cool. So at that point, we see them like about to go into like the next competition, which is like rock climbing. And by this point, Zenon's kind of been seeing like having these weird dreams, and so have Margie and Cassie, where like they see Zenon like going back to the Sea of Tranquility where Neil Armstrong laid the American flag and declared it for America, which, okay. And they keep seeing Zenon doing that, but then not being able to breathe. Because she takes off her helmet and it doesn't work, but then sometimes it does. So everybody starts having these weird dreams. They do the next competition.
And she's been getting help, too, from this weird effervescent light.
Right, and so the next part of the competition, they're, like, doing rock climbing, and the Numbar, who is the guy running the competition, actually is trying to rig it in favor of Braun. So he like moved one of Zenon's rocks really far so she couldn't reach. But she ends up reaching because we see this like white thing help her.
Yeah.
But Braun also sees that. And he's just like, what is going on? But he keeps moving and they keep making it work. But it ends up that Braun and Zenon are the last 2 left. So then Braun immediately is like, yo, like this isn't okay. She cheated. This white thing helped her like move her hand up and move her leg down. And Numbar tries to investigate it, but like it doesn't really go anywhere because it's like, how can you prove she did or didn't? Because he can't see anything, obviously, at that moment. And so she's, so it ends up being like, well, we can't do anything, but Margie and Cassie, you're out. Like, it's just these are the final 2. So Margie and Cassie are a little annoyed, but they're just like, all right, girl. Braun's very annoyed. And then at the same time, we see that Sage had managed to stow his way onto the moon to become an activist. But that Numbar has now locked him in his office.
Yeah, he crashes the welcoming ceremony.
Yeah, so he's made his way there to still, protest against them even doing this whole thing.
In the Game Master's homestay.
He's literally like in the man's office. And Zenon finds out because she's about to she's talking to Numbar about something, and then he opens up his office, and Sage is literally standing right there.
It's literally his lair. You're like, what is this door in the wall, sir?
It doesn't even make any sense. But yeah, so
why did you open it in front of her, you moron?
Literally. So Sage is right there. Zenon is still Zenon's like, I really need to figure out what that white thing is that helped me, because I feel like something's trying to send me messages again, because aliens and the last one. And she does actually end up getting into Numbar's office because she's like, I think Sage is the only person that could actually help me out with this. And so he's like, I don't know who it could be, but maybe it's Selena, the goddess of the moon. And she's like, oh, where do you think they would be? And he's like, the Sea of Tranquility, which is where you've been dreaming about every night. So she goes to the Sea of Tranquility. Dasha again sneaks along
really
with
does.
her.
Which is, how did the girl sneak along in a whole astronaut suit?
Literally a whole astronaut suit.
I mean, I know there's no sound in space, but
still. It doesn't make any sense.
Come on now.
But yes, so then Zenon meets with Selena, the goddess of the moon, and we actually see that she's like this punky, like angsty teenager. That's the way they code her in this one. And she's literally like, I need all of y'all to get the fuck out of my moon. because all you do is wreck things as humans, which was right.
Reasonable.
And she's literally like, you have 3 days. Like, she's like, Zenon, you're just known in the galaxy for getting things done. You have 3 days to get your people up off of here. So Xenon's like, well, that's quite the mission. So then she and Dasha, since Dasha, like, after Selena disappears, Dasha comes out and is like, wow! And Zenon is like, why are you here? But they end up having to, like, find their way back to the base, but then they get lost for, like, a second, and they only end up finding their way back because Plank and Aunt Judy are on their way to pick up Dasha. So they, like, see their shuttle drive past, and they're like, oh, that must be the way, because they almost run out of air. Because Dasha didn't think about these things and didn't realize that Zenon had left the door open so that they could get back in. But then Dasha, being Dasha, doesn't know that, so she just closed it. Which is why you shouldn't follow behind people. But anyways.
They also did talk a lot and do a lot of movement, knowing they were running out of air, which is obviously just never a good idea.
It didn't make sense.
You can't be talking that much. You're losing
oxygen. But Zenon gets back in, and so does Dasha, and they're like, yo, we got to get everybody up out of here. Numbar's not trying to hear it, though, but she's like, no, we got to get everybody up out of here. Like, I don't care what you guys say. And she's like, Selena, this would be a perfect time for you to show people that you exist. So then at that point, we see Selena, like, take Numbar and tape him up to the ceiling. So then all the teenagers are freaking out because they're like, I don't want that to be me. So we had also seen at the beginning that Protozoa is clearly in, like, a down period. This is also a fake Protozoa. This is not the one this is really not Philip Reese. This is another guy.
I don't even want to call him Protozoa.
Fake Protozoa.
You can call him a lie. Continue.
So he's having a down period right now, and he's like, I'm not popular anymore because I'm 32 years old, and, like, kids don't care about me.
Which is fair.
And he's like, all they care about is this new band, Cosmic Blush, who were, like, the new stars in town, and they're, like, a little all-girl band. So he snuck also onto the moon with his own tour bus that he can barely afford at this point. Because he had that tour bus, they're actually able to get all of the kids off of the moon onto that tour bus and get them back to Earth, because all the space shuttles had been gone because Numbar over here had planned to claim squatters' rights on the moon and had already, like, sent for all of the workers to come and start building up the moon and gentrifying the moon. So they had to send them all back on Protozoa's tour shuttle. And then Braun, Margie, Cassie, Dasha, and Zenon get back into their respective, like, competition shuttles, and they physically are going to lift the dome off of the moons, because they only have, like, a couple minutes now, because Selena's like, y'all need to get out of here, like, and she gave them a hard deadline.
Yeah.
So they finally get up out of there, and they, like, they lift up the dome and then just fling it out into space, because, again, nobody thinks about, like, properly doing things. Yeah. So they just fling it off into space, and then at the minute they do, Selena basically blows up all the rest of the base and, like, promptly removes it from her surface. We then just see, Sage and Zenon kiss.
It's cute.
Yeah, it's cute. And Dasha is reunited back with, like, Aunt Judy and Commander Plank, and they show her the puppy, and she's just like, oh yes, we're a real family now. And
yeah, it's cute. We have another musical ending.
Yeah, we
Cosmic
have a Cosmic Blush song.
And The Lie perform.
Yeah, they do. They have a little duo.
Obviously, Cosmic Blush's song is fine. I won't come at them, but obviously, the rest is lies.
It's no Supernova Girl. We'll say that.
Not even close.
It's no Supernova Girl.
This angered me very deeply. If
But,
you guys can't tell.
So that's Zenon Z3, and we'll be right back with the review.
So this story is essentially one of colonization.
Yeah.
And why that is, not why that's not okay, but, don't do it. Don't do it is kind of the simple takeaway, I would say. I think it's Sage who says, he has a moment in it where he says, Zenon, when they're first sort of talking about it, Zenon is saying essentially to him that, like, oh, but, like, a place, like, having us stay on the moon, like, we have a stay in space, like, that's, that's progress. Essentially trying to argue that this is, like, scientific progress, scientific advancement. And Sage, oh wise Sage.
That's why he's Sage.
Right? Borealis.
Again, these names, guys. Cassie's real name is Cassiopeia also.
Beautiful name. I've always loved that name.
It's beautiful.
He goes, progress would be knowing when to leave well enough alone. Which is a lesson that I think, generally speaking, humanity could, just learn it every time. And it's not all of humanity. It's certain sects.
Yeah.
Historically, I think everybody sort of had their dabble. And those who haven't have, in many ways, been eliminated or, retreated into forests. But, the big players, have never learned that, it seems. And it would be nice if, it'd just be a good time to, as, the earth is clearly cleansing itself, it would be a good idea to, I think, realize that and maybe move accordingly, handle things accordingly, moving forward, Sometimes it's, let the tree be a tree. Sometimes let the tree be a tree and not, build the mansion. But that's just a thought.
Yeah, I think the whole movie actually ends up being about ethics. It's because that's the undercurrent of the entire thing is that Sage is always from the beginning. He was correct. It's just why are you guys trying to conquer the freaking moon? What is that going to serve you? And then Numbar trying to claim squatters' rights on a planet,
which is
so
even
American.
us putting the flag on the moon is why?
Is it still there?
In theory, yes, but then we have to come down hard belief that we believe the moon landing happened.
Oh,
hard, but it's still there.
I just always wondered if it lasted all these years.
I mean, it's not. Nothing's gonna happen. There's no air. There's nothing. There's no wind unless it gets hit by a meteorite. It'll be there.
How apt if that were to happen.
right on that spot. Fuck this shit. That's alright. We've taken it wider than the Earth now. It's the whole universe saying these humans are acting up.
Right, and that was, I think,
them to stop.
One part about this that, just the fact that Selena is pissed because she's just the galaxy knows how y'all are. And I can't take you guys trying to colonize my planet because you're tired. You've overrun and overused Gaia.
That's what you did.
Poor Gaia. You killed her.
You killed Gaia. You will
the
not
Earth goddess.
You will not make a myth out of me. That is not gonna happen.
No, she's I'm here. It's also funny because they completely misrepresent her. On all the Moonstock festivals, they have Selena as the moon goddess on a lot of the merchandise.
Yeah.
And it's this long, blonde, white woman wearing, I don't know, a long white dress, just what you would think if you were thinking, moon goddess. And then for it to be this, angsty punk, teenager with black
tracks
spiky
a lot
hair.
Because if we don't talk Artemis, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If we're gonna talk who usually ends up being associated with the moon, it's always that.
It's a darker energy.
Exactly.
It'd be one thing if you guys were talking about Soleil, but we're talking.
You right though. You right.
But it's we're talking about the
Soleil.
moon. It's a darker energy. It's. We don't know what's on the other side. That's the
we
whole
don't
thing.
know what's on the other side. We don't.
That's the whole thing. So I just think it was just interesting to see how she's even misrepresented, which probably also pissed her off.
Yeah.
Is she's this is just what you humans think I am, and this is not what I am. Also, I've been here for millennia.
I might revolve around you, but I was trapped.
Right.
By gravity. It wasn't a choice.
I've also been here because my girl Gaia, when she was originally here.
We were chilling. She done went and just wrecked her.
But then
I didn't see Gaia in millennia.
Literally.
Where has she been? You are a disgusting being.
I think another fun part of this was also Braun as a character is basically Zenon's foil.
Yeah.
He's literally he's if Zenon did not have the good nature part of her that Nina mentioned in the first one when we were reviewing the first one. If Zenon did not have a good natured sense of self, she would be Braun.
Yeah. There's literally a moment where she says to him, she's saying something's going on. I think it's kind of when they're evacuating.
Yeah.
And she's this isn't about you. And he's everything is about me. And he means it. Like, you can see it, so it doesn't compute. He's like, of course it's, and to a certain extent, he's not wrong, because I mean, for every person, everything is kind of,
you're the main character in your own story.
Center of your own universe, blah 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 blah.
And he's also clearly like the Zenon of his space station.
Exactly, but
way more arrogant.
But the reason why Zenon, why the story actually ends up getting to be about Zenon, why Zenon gets entrusted with like saving the moon, is because she has that nature, and she understands that everything isn't always about her.
Right.
Even if things are looking like they're about to be, she knows when it's time to like let them not be about her.
Right.
Even if the rest of the world doesn't see that yet. So it was fun to watch her having to deal with him. And it's interesting because she's dealing with him on that front, but then at the same time, like, she is also getting this assistance from this unclear effervescence that is just floating around her whenever she's in trouble. And her friends clock it too, Marjorie and Cassie.
Mm-hmm.
Can we call her Cassiopeia?
If you want to. Yeah, that's fine.
Marjorie and Cassiopeia, they both, like, they're like, listen, you're our girl, so ain't nobody gonna tell on you, but we saw that too. Effervescence too. You know that it helped you. So essentially, check your privilege. Like, it's not just because you didn't control it doesn't make it right. Yeah, that you're getting this.
Because that's literally what she tells them when they complain to her. Is she was like, "Well, I can't do anything about something I can't control," and they were just like,
"Yeah, but you can remove yourself from the conversation.
Right? You can do that.
Something. You can do something. You just don't want to do it.
Right? Because it would make you uncomfortable.
Exactly. And it's nice that she responds to that, but like, she does check her shit. Yeah. It moves a bit quick after that, so she doesn't like turn herself in, but. She does.
She acknowledges that something is going on. She needs to actually look into it. Yeah, because she's like, yeah, that is crazy. Like,
and I appreciate that they have Marjorie and Cassiopeia do it because it's true.
Accountability, like, friends.
Right? Even the savior of the universe.
She needs it too. So she doesn't end up like Braun. Could you imagine her like Braun?
I think there are many.
2 Leos.
Two Leos. They destroy the galaxy. They would. They'd conquer it and destroy it.
Completely.
And you would think at first, like, you think that you love them, and then
you wouldn't.
Then you wouldn't. Oh yeah, it'd be a deep hole.
And I think another point that you had brought up was also the idea of like Dasha, who idolizes Zenon. Because she's also like a foster kid and she's 10. Yeah. So she's had nothing stable in her life but Zenon being a hero. Mm-hmm. So for her, it only seems natural to copy and do everything that Zenon does.
And it makes a lot of sense. And what I like is that I think Zenon actually bears that weight quite well in this. Mm-hmm. Like, I'll say, like, she was much nicer to Dasha than I've ever been to my little sister. At least, while she was small, or like forming. Now she's fully formed, and we can. She's
a full human,
but she still be getting on my nerves sometimes. But like she bears it well, and she does like even that small moment of like eating her vegetables so that Dasha will eat her own vegetables.
She knows how to wield the power well.
Yeah, and she doesn't abuse it. She doesn't. I mean, Zenon's not this type of character, but she doesn't like use it to get over in any way. She doesn't take advantage of Dasha's.
She's not Danny from Toto as the
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, she's not trying to shake down her foster cousin. Like, she's not trying to do that. But at the same time, she doesn't tell on her. She looks out for her. Mm-hmm. She ends up with her on the thing, and she's like, all right, like, I have to look after you. Right. I'm not gonna just like leave you. I'm not gonna she doesn't even really yell at her in it, which is, I would say, an amazing amount of restraint.
It is, even when that girl almost got them out there dead. Like, literally almost killed them. Literally almost killed them.
She, like, raises her voice, kind of. But,
she's clearly very annoyed.
But she bears it well, and I think that's important. Because even though Dasha has in her head that she's like a permanent burden, she feels like not enough, like not at so much of a burden enough that she follows Zenon off the planet. You know what I mean? Which is like, I find fair enough, you're just trying to escape, but like, you wouldn't, you know what I mean? You're not gonna run away. Like, you would just run away. You're not gonna run away with somebody if you think that they also hate you.
Right.
And by this point, Zenon is clearly annoyed with this child. Like, all of us older reading the room. So, I just think that she handles that very maturely. And in that way that, you know, this whole series has sort of shown Zenon constantly handling things very maturely for the most part. And I think that comes down to something that I brought up to you, Chelsea, but this, like, this whole, like, Zenon generally is an exceptional child story. You know, it falls into that category of like Harry Potter and like, you know, Jesus, like, so, like
the Jesus story.
You know what I mean? Just like saviors,
the chosen ones.
Who like are just naturally gifted or natural
leaders.
Yeah, just have this, and they actually do very little wrong. They learn their lessons immediately.
Right.
The stakes are never like, the stakes are always high, but weirdly enough at the same time, like in these, like the stakes are always like like people are going to die in mass numbers. Right. That's been the stakes for every single iteration of this series. And yet they don't feel that high because you know that the exceptional child will meet them. Right. Like, there's no question that that's going to happen because the child is exceptional. And I don't know, those stories are interesting. They're obviously prevalent for a reason amongst multiple cultures. I do think that they're weird because they're not necessarily relatable. Yeah. But they are quite inspiring. It's why Hercules was such a big thing, you know? You know, pre the madness and the slaughter. But, you know, like, I know as a kid, sort of engaging with characters like Zenon and stuff, yeah, I can do whatever, I can do anything. I can. And I can do anything, and I can be a good person. Like, that's the thing. Maybe I'm an exceptional child. Like, it breeds that idea. Maybe I'm an exceptional child. Right. Yeah. It's just that I think that there's also a back end of it, though, where it's like when you have too many of those stories being put out, then you can have situations where, you know, what happens when, I think we see it a lot, what happens when that 14, 15-year-old realizes that they're not an exceptional child after all.
Yeah, I feel like there's been a whole, actually, speaking of this, I think there's been, like, I've seen studies done on, like, gifted kids or people who are put in gifted classes really young, and then when they, like, get into, you know, like, college or into the workplace, they actually, or into, even, like, into, like, a high school situation that's, like, a lot more high pressure, just different, they tend to get very depressed and just kind of have this downward spiral, and it's because you've been told to be something that is such a high standard, you hold as such a high standard that when you can't meet it, even if it's just like one or two times, it just completely like destroys you because you don't learn to kind of have like an equal amount of wins and losses, which I think is very important for kids. Yeah, like it's like you need to learn failure. Like that is actively
you need to try and not succeed
as well as early on.
Yeah, or you know, get put into those ponds, or like move from that big fish in a small pond to a small fish in a big pond earlier than later. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's sort of the later it happens, the more, like, sort of delayed
it's more of a shock
your ability is to process.
Right.
Even if it's not failing, like, not winning.
Right.
In the big
or not being
way.
The best.
Yeah.
Or at whatever it is. Like, maybe it's like you're no longer the best in, like, mathematics or whatever it is, you know?
And we saw this in Gotta Kick It Up. Yeah. That's, like, the whole thing with Miss Bartlett.
Miss Bartlett.
Yeah, that's why she, like, burns out Juilliard or quits Juilliard. Mm-hmm. Because that's exactly what happens to her.
It happens to quite a lot of kids.
Yeah. So it's interesting. It's weird because you're watching Zenon and it's like, Zenon is an example of it done properly. Mm-hmm. But again, it's like, I do wonder how much of that is about, you know, upbringing or how she's, like, you know, being raised, or, you know, the fact that the space day is sort of more
progressive,
it seems more like utilitarian.
Yeah.
other places, egalitarian, sorry, then like it's not, I'm not saying it's not a utopia, but it just seems more, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That thing
It's
of
better.
like so they like it's recognized that she's like Xenon's she's a bit stellar, she's a bit of a star, she's this ball of light that we like keep talking about, this ball of fire, but it's not. She still learns it, like, she still had to do whatever chores she had to do on the space day to keep it running.
Right.
It's like she understands that in relation to others, not just her being a bright light or something exceptional and wonderful. But again, I really do think that there's a part of it that is just, at least from what I've watched, like this character, who she is. She seems to be someone who naturally can do that to herself.
Yeah.
Can look
She'll
around.
course correct.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And cares enough about other people, empathizes enough with other people, has a decent enough EQ, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
To, recognize that she can't set it ablaze. It all ablaze. Or she'll burn too.
Right.
If you want to take the metaphor all the way. As far as we possibly can on these podcasts.
Yeah. No, and I do think it is. I again defer to the great Disney film Meet the Robinsons.
It really is, it doesn't get the respect it deserves.
It doesn't. Nobody ever talks about it, but
really
it's so important, I think, for kids to see. And I think this actually, now that you brought that up, is something I'm kind of seeing as a slight critique of the Zenon films. She does have a lot of perseverance, but she never really fails.
Yeah.
And I do think that is such an important thing for kids to learn, and that is what Meet the Robinsons teaches. Is it's literally just like this young boy who fails all the time, and then he's like, this new adopted family he has, like, basically, like, makes a whole song about him failing, and you eventually find out that his failings get him to become this great scientist and inventor one day. But that's because he's failed so many times, you know? Like, it's like it builds to something, and it is so important for people to see that, because everybody fails, you know? Yeah, you can't get to where you are, but, like, you won't be a fully formed person.
Yeah, that's my another Disney treasure, National Treasure. That
my gosh,
love deeply, but it's one of my favorite lines in National Treasure, and it's always been, is when I think it is Nicolas Cage who's like, like what Edison say, like after he found, or it's like he doesn't find something.
Oh yeah, it's like 99% of perspiration or something.
No, he essentially says, like, I didn't, after failing 99 times, he's like, I didn't fail 99 times. I learned 99 ways how not to make a light bulb. Like, this idea that, and I've said this on here before, about even my mom always telling me, like, I never remember, like, I don't care about the 98% you got right. I want to know about the 2% that you didn't. I want you to go and read up on it and tell me what the right answer is, because that's the part I care about. Like, this idea of it's actually the moments where you don't quite succeed, or the moments where you don't succeed at all, that are the moments that sort of crystallize for you and will help fully form you into
teachable
the
moments.
Person that you're going to become. How you handle those moments, what you take from those moments, what you learn from those moments. And that is something that, and that's, I think, why the exceptional childness of this becomes so apparent. Mm-hmm. Because, even Harry Potter failed a lot. He was like, that is, that's the grace of God and your very smart friend, Hermione. Let's not talk about Ron on this podcast, but your very smart friend Hermione, like, that's what got you where you needed to be. But Zenon doesn't. She doesn't really have that. She kind of just barrels through. It works out.
Bull in a china shop. She's very bull in a china shop.
It's like the one time that she almost kind of like really fails in a real way. She immediately realizes that she can get on a plane with Prozoa. A shuttle with Prozoa in the first one. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, those moments of despair don't last long in these films.
No.
Because Zenon's gonna figure it.
Yeah.
So,
there's something to
keep
in mind.
Yeah, and it doesn't, and that's, and it, but then it goes again, that thing, it's like, it doesn't do a good job of that, but maybe maybe there's a whole generation, maybe our whole generation of girls were much more willing to try and fail at things because we saw a role model who didn't let the fear of failure stop her and then didn't fail.
Right.
You know, like maybe that's why we were willing to like
right.
put ourselves out there in certain ways.
Mm-hmm.
So who knows? Like chickens and eggs.
Yeah. For real. And I think another part that I liked about this that I think also sums up the entire series as a whole, and something we mentioned I think during the review of the first one, is Margie tells Dasha when her Zenon, Margie, and Cassie are all getting ready for like the final competition, I think, and they're all, like primping, like, they're like doing their hair, they're putting on their makeup, blah blah blah, and Dasha's like, why are you guys putting on makeup? We're just about to like go and like
do athletics.
Yeah, I think it was when they were before they were going to rock climb.
Yeah.
And Margie is like, just because I'm macro smart and independent doesn't mean I need to bury my beauty. And I just feel like that's just like a great theme for this whole series.
Yeah.
Because as we talked about in the first one, it's like the fashions, the accessories, like the girls are all super smart and they're also super fashionable, and it's like you can be all things.
You can be all and very physical. Like we actually don't. I like that they do sort of get into that in this one.
Yeah, they
like,
are.
Even in the second one, again,
when they're climbing,
Zenon really just climbs up a mountain. Like she hasn't lived on a space station for
it hasn't
10
actively
years
climbed up anything.
Like this isn't gonna do weird things to her body. She is off sometime now. She's like, I got it, yo.
Yeah,
I'm gonna bounce right back. Somewhere. You know what I mean? Like that's physical training and endurance, obviously. But yeah, it just this suggestion. Like again, it can be like a man's allowed to like put on an Armani suit and.
And be an investment banker
and do and like know numbers and do all that stuff. Like, she can be super duper fly in her everything, right. And like be super duper fly in her brains and soul and brawn as well.
Let the NASA female engineers wear their Louboutins.
Yeah, I want to see that Vogue spread. That's the Vogue cover I want. I want the women of NASA Vogue cover.
Exactly.
Thank you. Putting that out here now. And if it happens, I would like a commission saying that as well.
But yeah, no, I just think it's just the entire series. It's like, you can be all things. Like, you can be all things and nothing diminishes the other. And I think that is, again, formed because they grew up on a space station. Marjorie, obviously, notwithstanding.
Yeah.
But you do get a certain type of thing, again, when you don't have a direct patriarchal
that's
influence.
When she becomes a good person, though.
when she
gets some space station influence.
But I also just like her confidence in being able to say, like, I'm smart.
Yeah.
And I'm independent, and I'm also beautiful.
Yeah, so... and I think that's the other big thing of this, is like, be confident and trust yourself. And again, this happens in so many Disney Channel or movies. At this point, we're like kind of like a broken record, and we're not even halfway through, y'all. So you're probably
gonna hear that a million times.
But I think that's a fine thing to hear over and over again. It's one of those things that you almost can't really say enough, especially in the current climate. We are in a time of deep distrust, and like, so it kind of is a time where all you really like, that is what you can count on, is what you are and who you are and where you stand, and like what you know to be true and good and right and all of that. Like, standing your truth, like that actually means something right now in a very, very tangible way. So I think it's a good time to hear that on a loop, that trust in who you are, and trust in what's brought you to that place, and that you're like, well, again, the caveat, of course, if you're not a Nazi. If you're a Nazi, I don't care if Neo is in the top of it, don't ignore that. Change yourself immediately.
Change yourself.
But the rest of you, be merry.
And so with that, would you show this one to your kids?
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm really not gonna watch with them. I mean, here's what I imagine happening after I force feed them Zenon, the girl of the 21st century.
First one, yes,
specifically Zenon, the girl of the 21st century.
Yes.
I imagine that they will continue the series. And there's nothing, I guess, just like in the second one, there's really nothing of harm in this at all.
Yeah.
It's not a movie
actively
that
bad.
I would like to revisit because I see no purpose in rewatching this film. Because it's, I mean, how are we defining active? Because it's bad. It's a bad movie.
It's not
like it's a bad movie.
It's not Cheetah Girls One World.
All right, okay. So it's not atrocious. You know what I mean? But it's not. It's not even Twitches 2. Like it's not. No, it's better than Twitches 2. It's objectively better.
Yeah, no, it's better than Twitches 2.
Objectively, but like not
as funny.
But not nearly as entertaining. So why would I put myself through it again? My kids can watch it. My kids can take Zenon and run with it as far as they want to. I would love for it to take them to the stars. Like I really would. Like I would love my kid to end up, you know, in a shuttle off to you know what I mean, like a rocket ship. Anyway, I'm getting away from myself. Yes,
You want them in a rocket like Chad Michael Murray in Riverdale?
Why are you trying to derail this podcast? You know my thoughts on that. Listen, if y'all ain't watching Riverdale,
don't.
There's no reason to.
Don't watch
you
it.
You can find clips of Chad Michael Murray getting in a homemade rocket ship. I just watch that moment because it's great. It's great, you know. But yeah, I want my kids to enjoy Zenon, and I want them to love it, and like I said, learn from it, sing the songs, take all of the lessons and all of the encouragements into their like hearts and souls, and exist as little stellar lunarious beings.
Yeah. No, I'd agree. I think this is a fun one for them. I think kids would enjoy it, of course.
Seems kind of timeless because it's so future.
Yeah, because it's such a future. Even though actually by 2045,
they're gonna be like, this is inaccurate.
God, I don't even know. But different time, man. Or sorry, this is in 2051. The original is in
2049, I think.
Yeah.
This is 2054. The other one.
This is 2054. Yeah, sorry, my
first
timing is
one's
off.
2049.
Yeah, this is 2054. So God only knows where we're gonna be then, guys. But yeah, I think this is fine for kids. You know, I would definitely do it. I mean, if you want to rewatch it, I don't know if I'd recommend that.
I would not.
Yeah,
that's how I feel.
It's not really gonna.
Rewatch Zenon. Rewatch the Zenon Girl of the 21st Century.
Yeah.
If you loved Zenon the sequel, rewatch that one. This one, I don't think anyone loved it, and I don't think that you need to.
No, and I just want to give, a shout out to Kirsten Storms. She's been in so many things that we love, from this to Kim Possible. She voiced Kim Possible in the animated series. And she just deserves.
Yeah, girls that taught us to. She's one of those. Taught me how to love being a girl.
Yeah. And
how to be a girl in a world that might not be ready for me, but to do it anyway.
Oh wow, sorry. She was not Kim Possible, she's Bonnie. Christy Carlson Romano was Kim Possible.
Yeah. That's very true.
I forgot that for a second. But yes.
But was involved in those projects.
But Bonnie, yes, Bonnie, we love Bonnie. She was the angsty cheerleader we loved. Our biracial fave.
Bonnie.
So she was. She was our biracial fave. But yes, yeah. So definitely, maybe don't rewatch it, but Zenon does need to get more credit than I think it gets. I think it typically gets forgotten, and it really did mean a lot.
Yeah.
To our generation.
For a while.
Yeah.
It's still, we were really excited to watch it, and when we started watching it, it felt, I don't know how exactly to place it, but it felt really good to rewatch it.
Yes.
And to see that it's still good.
The first one.
Yes. But it felt good to know that that's something that still holds up because of how dear it was.
Yeah.
And it's I didn't realize that until having that experience.
Yeah. Completely agree. And with that, guys,
we'll see you next week.
Bye. Have a lunarious week. Lunarious.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of The Critics Kingdom. Don't forget to follow us on Spotify and SoundCloud so you can stay up to date. as well as interacting and letting us know what you guys think on social media. You can find us on Twitter at Critics Kingdom and on Instagram at The Critics Kingdom. We're excited to talk to you again next week.